start my timer. And Matthew, who's 6. I was a full-time mom for 12 years, and I've just recently gone back to my before kids career as a teacher. And so I'm currently substitute teaching at the New York City Board of Ed, and I teach elementary pre-K to 6th grade. It has been a lot of fun, but very exhausting to have these two very busy jobs, mom and teacher. But I'm so glad to be with you here today, moms, and I haven't been able to come because of my new role, my new job. So I really miss everybody. It was really nice to see everybody here today and be with you. But when Bea had asked me a while ago if I would do a talk on something, I said sure. And then she gave me the topic, strong-willed child. And so I thought to myself, wow, what are they trying to tell me? Because I was sure that I had absolutely no experience with a strong-willed child. And then I remembered my son and the battles for power that we seem to have on a daily basis. And I thought, well, maybe she's got a point. And luckily for you, my precious boy has given me lots of examples and practice to gain some understanding for you today. So thank you, Bea, for the offer, and thank you to Matthew for all the examples today. Well, we're going to begin with a little game that I have for you, and I passed out some papers before. You have a yellow or a pink paper. If you have not gotten a paper, can you come up and get one so that you can participate with us? Would you mind passing out? Anybody who missed it? All right. If you haven't already done so, please take a minute to read your paper, but make sure nobody else can read your paper. All right. And now I'd like you to stand up, and I would like you to, if you have a yellow paper, find a partner with a pink paper. If you have a pink paper, find a partner with a yellow. And try to find somebody, maybe from a different discussion group, or somebody that you haven't met before. So get up, go and find somebody, say hello, introduce yourself, make a new friend today, and find somebody with a different color tag than you. Okay, wait, don't start yet, just introduce yourself, don't start yet. Okay. Those of you with a pink paper, read your paper very carefully. Make sure you read every word so you know exactly what to do. All right? If you were the partner, you should be standing up together, make some space for yourself. All right? And you have, as a partnership, 3 tasks to complete. You do not tell each other what's on your paper, except those of you who are yellow, you can give descriptions, you can talk, you can tell them. But those of you on the pink paper, you're not allowed to tell them what's on your paper. All right? But you will surely show them. All right, you have 3 minutes to complete your task. Ready? Go.
Looks like we're on a very amazing race. I think so.
Why your task didn't get done? If you have pink paper, tell us why you didn't do it. Oh, because I'm lost. What does the pink paper say? What does the pink paper say?
It says not to do what your partner said to do.
Do not do it. Do something else. Do something you want to do, not what they tell you to do. Sound familiar? Take a second to talk with your partner. How is this activity like an interchange with your strong-willed child? Take a minute to talk to your partner.
Hey, Marilyn. Morning. Oh, do you need an extra chair?
I think we do. I'm surprised.
I know, me too. We were empty until about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, you can have a seat. You can go back to your spot. All right. Now this was a fun game, but I am sure that you are aware. If you have a strong-willed child in your life,
Yeah, wherever you can find an empty seat. I think right over here.
in fact, it can feel frustrating, exhausting,
Yeah, I mean, it's mom
and you can
next,
be at your
but yeah,
wit's
why not?
end.
Yeah, 'cause you-
Here's a quick quiz to help you see if you're dealing with a strong-willed child. You might have a strong-willed child if you hide in the bathroom rather than face the battlefield. You find yourself arguing all the time with someone standing below your hip, but you are defeated time and again. You are excited when 10 minutes go by without a tantrum. You feel as though everyone else has this parenting thing down, but you must have missed the instruction manual. You find yourself saying, I love this child with all my heart, but I don't like him very much. If this is your experience, I hope today will give you some ideas and some strategies, but mostly to give you some hope that this time will pass, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So stay with me here, and let's find this path and to piece together. First, we're going to begin with a definition of strong-willed. When I heard this talk, I thought, strong-willed, that's a child who says no. And oftentimes that's what we think. Strong-willed means the child has said no. But actually that's not necessarily the case. Often children who are able to express how they feel and say no or I don't want to are simply experimenting with the boundaries that they have been given and whether or not they have control over parts of their environment. Children who are never allowed to say no or to say I don't want to can often find themselves, can often find themselves in situations where they don't have the ability to say no, considering peer pressure and other things like that. So being strong-willed is simply confident, decisive, yet often overly forceful ability and desire to have their own way and to control their surroundings. This includes a lack of respect and obedience to authority figures. And some of these qualities now can be very positive if given the framework that I'm sure many of you have seen, but it can be a huge challenge. So what we're talking about today is not changing a child, but rather guiding, molding, and keeping them in the framework that would make everyone's life more livable. Some signs to look for when working with a strong-willed child is their intense desire to make their own choices. Strong-willed children rarely comply with what you have directed them to do, and they will often rebel against any decision, even if it's a decision that they would have made had you not made it first. Has that ever happened to you? I remember giving my child a green sippy cup instead of a red sippy cup. Because green is their favorite color, and it happened to be their favorite sippy cup. But because I gave them that one, there was a meltdown over it. Okay? What we think is minor and small to a strong-willed child can be the beginning of a battlefield, and it often takes us off guard. The key to helping children in this area is giving them opportunities to make choices. Have you ever had a time when you wanted your child to wear a pretty dress or nice clothes when you're going out, but they want to wear ripped jeans and the t-shirt that's 3 sizes too small from 3 summers ago? My son would constantly fight over clothing choices that I made for him. A boy, mind you. I thought I would have this from my girls. My son was like, I don't like that shirt, I don't want to wear those pants, and he would want to wear what he wanted to wear. Now, sometimes, let's be honest, the outfits really don't matter. Remember, with a strong-willed child, they will make a battle out of everything. And if you engage, In every battle, you will be in every battle, and guaranteed you will lose a few. So you have to pick and choose what's most important. It's not the end of the world if they go out of the house in mismatched clothes or socks that are ripped or something of that nature. It is a natural consequence. Number one, the kids around might say, "Why are you wearing that?" Or they might feel uncomfortable around their peers. But giving them that option to walk outside in whatever they want to wear, it's a battle you don't have to have, and it's a choice they can make. I call it adventures in fashion. So if I see any other adults who might look at me, I say, "Oh yes, we dressed ourselves today, can't you tell?" And applaud your children's opportunity to do that. Allowing them to make their choices in this way gives them some personality, style, and it gives them some freedom. And it reduces your stress in this particular area. Now, of course, there may be times, like a wedding or a special occasion, that you really need them to wear something particular. Now, rather than enforcing a certain outfit, try giving them two choices. Of course, pre-approved by you, but they don't know that. So you say, rather than wear this, how about you can choose this one or this one? You don't care, because you like them both. But they get to pick the one they want. And in their mind, they're saying, I have control of the situation. I can make a choice. And so you're empowering them and giving them that opportunity to do so. Another sign that you might have a strong-willed child is that you are always wrong and they are always right. Has that ever happened in your house? I know it has in mine. This frustrates me. My intelligence is challenged by a toddler all the time. And I went to masters in college and they're just in preschool. How come they know everything and I know nothing? But we find ourselves defending our point of view and arguing with a little one. Bumping heads, and they just won't see it, no matter what you say. In my experience, I've found times to let this opportunity to discover what the truth is on their own. Eventually, the truth or the right answer will come out. And as much as you'd like to say, I told you so, don't. Just let them feel it and know. They'll never admit it most of the time, a strong-willed child, but they will know that you were right. And maybe, just maybe, when they're 25 and out of the house, they'll come back to you and remind you that you were right all along. One time, my son insisted on putting the batteries in his own toy. And I wanted to show him batteries go a certain way. There's a little button on the top, and you have to put them in the right way, or your toy won't work. And I got the phrase, anybody know it? Thank you. I do it myself. Okay. Now, of course, this always works fine if you have nowhere to go and nowhere to be. But if you're in a rush and you want to just get that toy going and let's move, come on, let's just put it in the right way. Let me show you how to do it. No, I want to do it myself. So you sit back and you let them do it themselves. And if they're young enough and they can't see the pictures of where the battery goes, they will put them in most of the time the wrong way. The toy won't work, and they start to get frustrated. Let them. It's okay for them to experience failure. When they're doing it on their own, they should experience failure once in a while, where they can say, it's not working out like I thought it would. And when they get to that point, they're going to have to admit, maybe not verbally, that they need your help. And then be there to help them. Again, don't rub it in. But be there to help them and guide them, and let them know that you are the resource that they were looking for all along. Pride tends to be a huge factor in the development of a strong-willed child. They assume they know everything, and they are always right. And they want their own way because they are entitled to their own way at all costs. And oftentimes they have difficulty accepting responsibility for their behavior because it must be someone else's fault. And the best area that they can show this is insisting on their own way. And when they fail, it gives them a good lesson to learn that they're not always. I always tell my children there are consequences to every action. Doing the right thing yields a good consequence, such as a reward or positive praise. Doing the wrong thing, making bad choices, yields bad consequences, called punishment. Now, I'm not referring to spanking or timeout specifically. Punishment is simply a consequence of choosing a direction that is not the way you want them to go. And usually, it's somewhat unpleasant. Many of the ideas that I've gleaned from this talk today, I found from this book, I have a new kid by Friday by Dr. Kevin Leland. It's an excellent book. It's funny, it's lighthearted, but it really helps you understand some challenges. We have it in the MOPS library, thank you, with discipline and disobedient children. And it explains much of what I'm going to be talking about today and gives great strategies on how to manage the experiences you might have. The best part that I found in the book was the concept of natural consequences, allowing children to follow their own path and discover what the consequences are going to be. One of the principles that I used was in getting my children to help around the house. Now, if you have a child who's walking and talking, they can help with something around the house. Start them now. Because if you wait until they're 15 to get them to do any help, you will have lots of resistance. And believe me, at 3, it's fun to clean the toilet. It really is. So you want to introduce them to cleaning and doing some help. It helps you and it gives them some control over what they get to contribute in our family. So I give my 3 children, they have chores that they have to do around the house. And each week I expect them to do their chores, and they have to do them before dinner time. That's my only rule, but they can do them at any time after school, or before school if they want to. Now, when I first introduced this, they were very excited about it, because they would receive an allowance for doing their award. And especially the older child who's now wanting to go shopping, she's starting to think and calculate, oh, I can make some money, this is going to be good. And they got really excited about doing it. But very quickly, as we do too, we discovered that housework isn't all that fun. So they stopped really doing it. And they started like, oh, I didn't get to it, I forgot, and there was not a lot of motivation there. And so I decided to show them natural consequences of not doing what needs to get done. Now, I had made one time, Kim had done a great craft, and I still use it, so I want you to know. From MOPS, it was a little jar, and you could put, you could decorate your little cup, and you could put sticks inside for different things. I use that as my chores jar. And so, when my kids each have a different colored stick, when they do a chore, I put a stick inside, and that gives them credit for the day. And Saturday is payday. We count up the money, and they get money for each stick, and then they get their money. And Sunday is a day of rest. I do give them one day off, so that they can just have no chores that day. We do give them a day of rest. All right, now, in the past, when they hadn't done their chores, I would be frustrated, I'd be yelling. I'd be like, come on, you have to do your work, why aren't you helping me? But now that we have the chores jar, that is an objective way of ensuring that things get done. Because guess what happens? If they do their chore, they put their stick in the jar. But if a half an hour before dinner they haven't done their chore, I will remind them just once. It is time to do your chores. It's almost dinner time. If they choose to ignore me, or say no, I will not, or I don't have time, or I'd rather watch TV, then guess what? We'll hire somebody else to do it. Just like in life, if you don't clean your home, you hire somebody to do it, right? So if you don't do your chores, I'll hire your brother or sister. But guess who pays them? You do. So, at payday, when they have their money, they have to pay their brother and sister for every chore they did for them. That sting helps to remind them that there is a consequence to saying no. And it's not a mean mom or somebody who's drilling authority over them. This is a natural consequence that they knew ahead of time. It's important to give kids these ideas and to know that what they do matters. It matters in everything that they do. Now, natural consequences is simply the cause and the effect principle. If I do this, this will happen. If I do that, then that will happen. Giving the children the opportunity to make those choices in their experience makes a huge difference to their choosing to do the right thing. Because overall, kids really do prefer rewards over punishment. And so if they know they have the control to make one of those two happen, they'll do it. Now, many of you know I was supposed to do this talk with Maria Brandmeier several months ago, but sadly, she had passed away before we could do it together. But I'm grateful for the time that we had prior, because we did spend lots of time on the phone talking about the topic as we were planning it, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, God did not make you a parent to be your child's best friend. You were given to them to be their guide, and sometimes those two concepts will collide. Of course we want our children to like us, But it's more important that they love and respect us. And they will do that as we guide them in the right direction. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it. Allowing your children to fail and help them make better choices in the future is guiding them on the right path. And certainly if you've ever met Maria's grown children, you would agree that she did have some great advice and had some amazing kids. It's important to note that strong-willed children are often born that way. It is like part of their personality. It is like having a talent to drive you crazy. So don't feel as though you have failed as a parent if you discover that your beautiful bouncing baby boy or girl, with all the hopes and dreams that you had, suddenly is pulling your hair out. Okay? It doesn't mean that all hope is lost. In James Dobson's book, this is another great book that I read for the talk, is The New Strong-Willed Child. He talks about shaping the child's will while preserving their spirit. Now, a strong-willed child must ultimately learn to yield under parental authority. But they must always know in that process that love and affection remain. The will of the child is strong, but their spirit is delicate. And we must be careful to nurture during the process of guidance and correction. So be really careful with your words. They are more powerful than any physical pain you can inflict. When speaking to our children, we must remember to build up and not tear down. In anger, I will be honest, I know I have said some mean and hurtful things to my kids, and I know that they probably remember them and still have them from a long time ago. Dr. Dobson says that a child's resistant behavior always contains a message for his parents. Our job is to decode that message before responding. Is your child tired, hungry, frustrated, sick, feeling lonely, needing your attention, feeling unloved? Oftentimes the power struggles we see can be resolved once the source is discovered. When guiding and disciplining a strong-willed child, it's especially important to remove raw emotion. I know that this is a big one for me. The child who fights you at every turn is exhausting, and exhaustion can quickly turn to anger. So remember to take your time for you and step out of the situation. Here are some 4 things that I've learned along the way. And trust me, I am not perfect. Like I said, just yesterday I had some great examples for you of my strong-willed child. But these are some things that I'm on the path learning just like you, and hopefully it will help you and encourage you in your walk with your children. I've used all R words to help it be something a little more easy to remember. But our first R stands for remind. When you're guiding your children toward obedience, make sure your expectations are clear and that they're appropriate for your child's age. If your child is 3 and all of your friends' kids are potty trained and they're not, please don't reprimand them and punish them for that. That may not be physically appropriate for them at that time. So be aware of their age and what their ability is. Maybe they're not sitting quietly in church for 2 hours when they're 4. It might be a little unrealistic to expect such behavior from a certain age. So remember to know their ages, but make your expectations clear. Children need to know what's expected of them before they walk into an environment that can be challenging. For example, we go to Disney a lot. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a big, big Disney fan. And every ride in Disney ends in a gift shop, right? Have you ever been to Disney? Every ride ends in a gift shop. Now, we've been there so often, so we do know this. Those of you who have never been, I'm telling you now, every ride ends in a gift shop. So you need to prepare your children, because there's always new stuff. We go to Disney all the time, but there's always new stuff, and everybody wants this stuff. And if I bought everything they wanted and I succumbed to every demand, I would never be going to Disney again because I have no money. I have spent it all. So I always prepare my kids prior to the event of what we're going to find out. And that may take a little research on your part. But you want to make sure you know the environment you're going in. So when they were little, I would say to them, you can choose 1 item a day. You can choose 1 thing that you would like from any of the gift shops that we pass through, but only 1 a day. Now when they were little, that worked easily because usually they wanted ice cream or a piece of candy or something that was simple. As they got older, they got smarter. They're like, I want that $75 one thing. So we had to change that. As you see, all these methods change as your kids get older. Now we have a $1 limit. I give them a gift card each as their little gift for our trip. And you may spend it however you like. This takes away mommy saying no. You have this much money, whatever it is that you're comfortable in your budget, you have this much money to spend for the trip. Guess what? They don't want everything when they have to spend their own money. They make much better choices. They think about it, and I've heard my son say, you know what? I don't think it's worth it. And they'll move on. And oftentimes we'll be at the end of the trip and they're scrambling to spend their money because they had hoarded it and saved it because they weren't sure what they wanted. So it's a good lesson, and there's no argument. If there becomes a tantrum and screaming and carrying on, they know quite quickly that that card gets put away for that day, and they have no spending money that day. Sometimes we've had to use it, oftentimes not, because they know that they have the control to spend that money however they want, and they'll do it in the right way. Setting clear expectations helps that strong-willed child feel control, and they're reminded that their actions, not a punitive parent or somebody telling them, but their actions is what will determine the course of the rest of their day. My next R is rebuke. When a child has not done what is expected or strayed from the acceptable path you have set, you must follow through on consequences. Now this is both for reward and for punishment. If you explain in advance the results of their behavior, then you had better be prepared to do it. So keep in mind, don't say things like, if you eat all your vegetables, we'll go to Disney World, unless you're ready to pack your bags that way. And another one I've heard all the time, don't say, we are not going on vacation unless you clean that room, unless you're planning to cancel that trip. Empty threats will be the death of you, Mom. You must make clear consequences that you will follow through on. It's very important. Oftentimes, a reward does not have to be a thing. A hug, a positive praise, a good job, I'm so proud of you, goes a very long way. Keep that in mind. Oftentimes we tend to overgive stuff when really they just want 5 more minutes of you. So spend that time and give them the rewards that they deserve. But keep in mind that they need to have a consequence if they haven't done it. Deciding the punishment before the heat of the moment is also critical when you're rebuking a behavior. You don't think of the punishment while you are so angry for what they just did, because you will make a punishment that doesn't fit the crime. Timeouts are often a great way for everybody to cool down. And I'm talking about a mom timeout. Anybody given a mom timeout? Sometimes I have told my children, Mom needs a timeout. So I'm going in my room, I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes, and I'll be back. And there could be screaming and bedlam in the basement. I am 10 minutes to me. Because then I can come into the situation with a clear head and I can make the proper decisions that I need to make. Don't be afraid of taking time out for yourself. There's lots of different ways for punishment, and I'm not here to tell you the best one. There's timeouts, there's spankings, there's taking away privileges, there's removing them from a situation. There's lots of ways. I'm not telling you the best way because I believe it's up to each parent to make those decisions. The best way is for you to find what works with your child. You know, my son, if I spanked him, he would look at me and go, that didn't hurt. But if I took away video games for a week, suddenly we're listening. So it really matters for you to know what works best with your child. The next R is arguably the hardest one for most people, especially strong-willed children, and that is repentance. Repentance is not only being sorry for what they've done, but it is a true desire to turn from their way and move towards a way of obedience and behavior. Strong-willed children have a hard time with this Because we said before, pride is a huge factor. And if I have to repent and say I'm sorry and turn from what I'm doing, it means I admit I'm wrong. And they don't like to do that. However, learning this skill of saying I'm sorry, and a true sorry, not a I'm sorry, and 5 minutes later they do it again. Learning that desire is key to helping manage a struggling child and guiding them in the right path. It means that they have to learn to obey authority and redirect their behavior. My son was working on a Boy Scout God and Me Award, and we worked on this workbook together. We came to the story of the lost sheep, and we had to discuss it and answer questions on it. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with the story, this was a parable told by Jesus, and he was describing what the kingdom of God was like, what the kingdom of heaven was like. Now, he explains this parable as a shepherd who has 100 sheep. And one day, when counting his sheep, he finds only 99. There was one sheep missing. Now, the shepherd was not content with just having 99. He wanted to find that extra sheep. So he went out and he searched and he searched. And when he found that sheep, he rejoiced and he put that sheep on his shoulders and proudly brought that sheep back into the fold. A beautiful story of how God pursues us, even in our willful disobedience, and brings us back to the fold. Well, we had a question to discuss afterward. It was a true or false question. Here's the true or false. It was the sheep's fault that it was lost. Now, I had never pondered this question before because my immediate response has always been, that's true. The sheep wandered away from the fold, so it must be his fault. But my son surprised me with his answer. He said, it was the shepherd's fault because he should have had a better watch on those sheep. Now, think about that. That was a huge eye-opener for me into his perspective of how he's thinking. He has a very hard time accepting any responsibility for his actions, and he blames others for what has happened to him. This is the very essence of pride, and it often is a stumbling block for strong-willed children, helping them see that they have control over their behavior and consequences, and their acceptance that he helps them to manage life. The final R here is an important one for parents because this is one that often can be overlooked, but you need to restore. Restore that relationship. The worst you can do is discipline and never return to embrace the outcome. Spend time restoring that relationship, reassuring your child that you love them unconditionally and that you were given to them as parents to guide them and train them. I always tell my children, there is nothing you can ever do that would make me stop loving you. And my son loves to give me examples. But what if I did this? I would still love you. I would still love you. They need to know that their consequences that they receive can never negate your love. Hugely important. I think for me in dealing with my strong-willed child, I have to remind myself that I'm the adult. And I'm fighting with a younger child. And fighting with a young child is counterproductive. Keep your cool. Rely on your natural consequences. Follow through and be consistent. You have to win this war. You may not get every battle, and some you might have to concede, but you have to win the war for their sake and for yours. Sometimes that means separating yourself from the situation, but remember that this is a lifelong process, not a moment's decision. The more in control you are, the better your results will be. Of course, as in anything, there are more extreme cases of strong-willed behavior. And if you've tried all of these methods and that we've outlined, and you've had little or no success, and you've just done everything and you are at your wit's end, I would encourage you to seek further help. If your child's safety or your family's safety is in jeopardy, it's time to look further. Getting professional intervention is nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes we need it, and it's okay to go for that. The goal here is to restore peace and harmony in your family, so you can have everyone thriving together. So please do what you can to help in the situation. Try some of these things, but if it is gotten to the point where you believe it to be out of control, go get help. It's okay. Remember, reminding, rebuking, repenting, and restoring. It's not always easy, but the effort you make will make a difference in the lives of your child and the rest of your family. I'm going to close with a summary of the major themes of Dr. Dobson's book, and I think it helps to comfort and reassure those of us in the midst of the storm with our strong little child. It's found on page 211. Some focus on some of these principles as you think about what we talked about today. Number one, you should not blame yourself for the temperament for which your child was born. She is simply a tough kid to handle, and your task is to match her stride for stride. Your strong-willed child is in greater danger because of an inclination to test the limits and scale the walls. Your utmost diligence and wisdom is required to deal with them. You simply have to be tougher than he is, but do it without being angry or oppressive. If you fail to understand his lust for power and independence, you can exhaust your resources and bog down in guilt. It will benefit no one. For parents who have just begun, take charge of your baby now. Hold tightly to the reins of authority and quickly begin building into her an attitude of respect and obedience. You will need every ounce of all you can muster in the coming years. Once you have established your right to lead, begin to let go of the reins systematically year by year. Don't panic. Even in the storms of adolescence, they never last forever. The sun will shine again, producing perhaps a beautiful rainbow over your spirit. You're going to get through this. Don't let your child stray too far from you emotionally. Stay in touch. Don't write him off, even when your impulse is to do just that. He needs you now more than ever before. Give that kid time to find herself, even if she appears not to be searching. And most importantly, I urge you to hold your children before the Lord in fervent day by day prayer. Begin every morning with a prayer of wisdom and guidance. I am convinced that there is no other true source of confidence in parenting. There is not enough knowledge in any book, mine or anyone else's, to counteract the evil that surrounds our kids today. We must bathe them in fervent prayer when we are in our times of prayer, saying things similar to this. Lord, you know my inadequacies. You know my weaknesses, not only in parenting, but in every area of my life. I'm doing the best I can to raise my kids properly, but it may not be good enough. As you provided the fish and the loaves to feed the 5,000 hungry people, now take my meager effort and use it to bless my family. Make up for the things I do wrong. Satisfy the needs I have not met. Compensate for my blunders and my mistakes. Wrap your great arms around my children and draw them close to you. And be there when they stand at the great crossroads between right and wrong. All I can give them is my best, and I will continue to do that. I submit them to you now and rededicate myself to the task you have placed before me. The outcome rests securely in your hands. I found that God is a faithful and loving Father. He hears the cries of the people's heart. Turn to him when you're at the end of your rope, because he is the comfort that you need. Good luck.